There's something they fear about you. Not your anger, not your rebellion, not your complaints about the system. They fear your contentment with solitude, your ability to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your values, your refusal to need their approval, their validation, their constant presence. They fear that you've discovered something they haven't, that you can be completely whole without fitting into their carefully constructed boxes. You are what Nietzsche would have called the free spirit, the person who has learned to live authentically regardless of social pressure. But society has given you a different name, the lone wolf. And they've spent decades trying to convince you that this is a problem, a disorder, something that needs to be fixed. Today, I want to reveal the dark truth about why society fears lone wolf personalities, and why your independence threatens the very foundation of their control. This isn't about isolation or antisocial behavior. This is about the profound psychological strength it takes to be authentic in a world that profits from your conformity. Whether you're a man who's been told he's too distant, or a woman who's been called too independent, you've likely felt the pressure to change, to fit in, to need others more than you naturally do. Nietzsche understood that the greatest individuals in history were those who had the courage to stand apart from the herd, to think independently, to create their own values rather than inherit them from society. He wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe." And if you're listening to this, if these words resonate with something deep inside you, then you know exactly what that struggle feels like. And if you recognize yourself in this description, if you've ever been made to feel like your independence is a flaw rather than a strength, then subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. We're building a community of people who understand that not fitting in isn't a bug, it's a feature. In the comments, write these 3 words. I choose authenticity, not as a rejection of others, but as an affirmation of your right to be yourself. The first dark truth society doesn't want you to know is that your independence makes you uncontrollable. Every system of power, whether it's economic, political, or social, depends on people who need external validation, who crave belonging so desperately that they'll compromise their values to achieve it. But you've discovered something dangerous. You can be happy alone. This terrifies them because it means you can't be manipulated through the fear of abandonment. When someone threatens to leave your life, you don't panic. You evaluate whether their presence was adding value or just filling space. When society tries to shame you into conforming, you don't immediately comply. You question whether their standards align with your authentic self. Nietzsche saw this pattern clearly in his concept of master morality versus slave morality. War. The masses operate from slave morality. They define themselves in relation to others. They need external approval to feel valuable. They derive their sense of worth from fitting in. But the lone wolf operates from master morality. They create their own values. They determine their own worth. They define success on their own terms. Your ability to be content with your own company is a direct threat to consumer culture, which depends on people believing they need constant stimulation, constant connection, constant acquisition to be happy. You've proven that's not true. You've found fulfillment in simplicity, in solitude, in the depth of your own thoughts rather than the noise of constant social interaction. This independence extends beyond just social relationships. You're likely someone who questions career paths that everyone else accepts without thought, who examines belief systems that others inherit automatically, who makes life choices based on your authentic desires rather than social expectations. And that level of independent thinking is genuinely threatening to systems that depend on mass compliance. The second dark truth is that your authenticity exposes others' masks. When you show up as genuinely yourself, unfiltered, unperformed, real, you become a mirror that reflects back everyone else's pretense. Your comfort with being alone highlights their desperate need for constant company. Your selective approach to relationships exposes their quantity over quality strategy. Your inner peace contrasts sharply with their inner chaos. Nietzsche understood that most people live in what he called bad faith. They wear masks so habitually that they forget their real face underneath. They perform roles so consistently that they lose touch with their authentic desires. They seek approval so constantly that they forget how to validate themselves. Your presence reminds them of what they've lost, and that reminder is deeply uncomfortable. This is why lone wolf personalities often find themselves the target of subtle hostility in social settings. People don't usually attack you directly. Instead, they make comments about how you're too serious, too intense, or too independent. They suggest you need to learn to depend on others or work on your social skills. But these aren't genuine concerns about your well-being. They're attempts to pull you back into the herd where your authenticity won't challenge their performance. Your selectivity in relationships also threatens the social contract of automatic acceptance. While others collect acquaintances like trophies, you cultivate fewer, deeper connections. While others say yes to every social invitation to avoid the fear of missing out, you say no to preserve your energy for what truly matters to you. While others perform friendship for social media, you invest in real intimacy with people who earn your trust. This approach to relationships reveals the superficiality of most social connections. Your deep, authentic friendships highlight how shallow and transactional many other relationships are. Your loyalty to people who truly know you exposes how conditional most social acceptance really is. Your standards make others question whether they're settling for less than they deserve. The third dark truth is that your self-sufficiency threatens economic and social systems designed around dependency. Every industry from entertainment to education to therapy operates on the assumption that people need external solutions to internal problems. But you've developed the dangerous habit of solving your own problems, entertaining yourself, and finding meaning through your own exploration and growth. Nietzsche predicted this conflict in his writings about the last man, the type of person who seeks comfort, security, and endless entertainment rather than growth, challenge, and authentic self-development. Society pushes everyone toward becoming the last man because last men are predictable consumers who don't question the systems that contain them. But the lone wolf personality represents the opposite of the last man. Instead of seeking endless comfort, you're comfortable with discomfort if it leads to growth. Instead of avoiding solitude, you embrace it as necessary for self-knowledge. Instead of needing constant entertainment, you find fascination in your own thoughts, projects, and development. Your financial independence often follows naturally from your emotional independence. When you don't need to keep up with social expectations, you spend less on status symbols. When you're content with fewer relationships, you invest more in quality experiences rather than impressive displays. When you're not driven by the need to impress others, you can make career and life choices based on what actually fulfills you rather than what looks good to outsiders. This economic independence gives you something even more threatening than emotional independence: the power to walk away from situations that don't serve you. You can leave jobs that compromise your values, relationships that drain your energy, and social circles that demand you be someone you're not. This mobility terrifies systems that depend on people feeling trapped by their circumstances. And here's where most people misunderstand the lone wolf personality. They think it's about rejecting all human connection, but that's not accurate. If you're recognizing yourself in this description, if you understand what I'm talking about, then write in the comments, quality over quantity. Because that's really what this is about. You haven't rejected human connection. You've just raised your standards for it. You'd rather have one real conversation than 10 superficial ones. You'd rather have one authentic relationship than a dozen that require you to pretend to be someone you're not. The fourth dark truth is that your inner strength reveals others' inner weakness. When you can handle criticism without falling apart, when you can be alone without feeling lonely, when you can make decisions without needing consensus, you demonstrate a level of psychological resilience that makes others feel inadequate by comparison. Nietzsche wrote extensively about the concept of ressentiment, the resentment weak people feel toward the strong. This isn't about physical strength, but about psychological and spiritual strength. Your ability to be authentic, regardless of social pressure, to maintain your values even when they're unpopular, to find fulfillment from within rather than from external sources. This represents a type of strength that many people wish they had but feel incapable of developing. This resentment often manifests as attempts to pathologize your independence. You're told you have attachment issues because you don't cling to relationships that don't serve you. You're accused of being emotionally unavailable because you don't share your deepest thoughts with casual acquaintances. You're labeled as having trust issues because you don't automatically assume everyone has good intentions. But these labels are projection. Your careful approach to trust isn't paranoia. It's wisdom earned through experience. Your selective emotional availability isn't coldness. It's the natural result of valuing genuine intimacy over performed vulnerability. Your independence isn't an attachment issue. It's the healthy result of developing a secure relationship with yourself. Your inner strength also makes you a target for people who want to fix you or help you become more social, more dependent, more like everyone else. They can't accept that your way of being is not only valid, but potentially superior to their approach. They need to believe that everyone should want what they want, need what they need, find fulfillment in the same places they do. The fifth dark truth is that your vision of life threatens their limited imagination. Most people accept the script they've been given. Go to school, get a job, find a partner, have kids, buy a house, retire, die. But lone wolf personalities often see possibilities that others can't imagine. You might choose unconventional careers, alternative lifestyles, different definitions of success and happiness. Nietzsche called this ability to imagine different ways of living the will to power. Not power over others, but the power to create your own meaning, your own values, your own definition of a life worth living. Your willingness to experiment with different approaches to existence reminds others that they've been accepting limitations they never had to accept. Your creative independence often extends into every area of life. You might work as a freelancer rather than accepting traditional employment, travel solo rather than waiting for companions, pursue unconventional learning rather than formal education, create art or writing that expresses your unique perspective rather than trying to please market demands. This creative independence is threatening because it proves that the conventional path isn't the only path. Your success and fulfillment through alternative approaches suggests that others might be missing opportunities by staying within traditional boundaries. Your willingness to take risks for the sake of authenticity highlights their choice to prioritize security over self-expression. Your vision also includes a different understanding of relationships. While society promotes the idea that everyone needs to be in romantic relationships to be complete, you've discovered that completeness comes from within. While others rush from one relationship to another to avoid being alone, you take time between relationships to reconnect with yourself. While others stay in unsatisfying partnerships because they fear solitude, you'd rather be alone than be with someone who doesn't truly appreciate who you are. But here's what makes the lone wolf personality truly dangerous to systems of control. Your contentment with authenticity makes you immune to most forms of social manipulation. You can't be controlled through the fear of missing out because you're genuinely happy with your choices. You can't be manipulated through social pressure because you've learned to trust your own judgment over crowd opinion. You can't be coerced through the threat of abandonment because you've proven to yourself that you can thrive alone. This immunity to manipulation is what Nietzsche called becoming who you are. It's the process of developing such a strong sense of self that external pressures become background noise rather than compelling forces. You've learned to differentiate between your authentic desires and the desires society tells you to have. You've developed the courage to pursue your own path, even when others don't understand it. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, and it's not always easy. There are moments of doubt, times when the pressure to conform feels overwhelming, periods when you question whether your independence is worth the misunderstanding it sometimes creates. But something inside you keeps choosing authenticity over acceptance, depth over breadth, quality over quantity. And that choice, the consistent choice to be yourself rather than who others want you to be, is what makes you truly free. Not free from all responsibilities or connections, but free from the need to betray yourself to maintain relationships, free from the compulsion to seek validation from people who don't truly know you, free from the fear that being alone means being incomplete. The lone wolf personality isn't about rejecting the world. It's about engaging with the world on your own terms. It's about building a life so authentic and fulfilling that you don't need others to complete it, though you welcome those who can appreciate and contribute to what you've created. It's about developing such a strong relationship with yourself that you can offer genuine intimacy to others without losing your own identity in the process. Nietzsche wrote, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." But he also understood that sometimes the greatest strength comes from walking away from what would slowly drain your life force. Your willingness to be alone rather than compromise your authenticity, to be misunderstood rather than perform a false self, to be selective rather than desperately social. These aren't signs of dysfunction. They're signs of profound wisdom about what actually creates a meaningful life. Society fears lone wolf personalities because you represent proof that their promises of happiness through conformity are false. You've found fulfillment through a path they insist leads to loneliness and failure. You've created meaningful connections through authenticity rather than performance. You've built a sense of worth that doesn't depend on external validation or social status. Your existence is a quiet rebellion against every system that profits from insecurity, neediness, and the fear of solitude. Your contentment with your own company is a direct challenge to industries built on the premise that you need their products, services, or approval to be happy. Your authenticity is a threat to social structures that depend on everyone playing prescribed roles rather than discovering their unique gifts and perspectives. Subscribe if you're ready to embrace your nature as someone who chooses authenticity over acceptance, depth over superficiality, quality over quantity in every area of life. Share this with someone who needs to know that their independence isn't a flaw, but a strength that the world desperately needs more of. And most importantly, never apologize for being someone who can be complete without needing others to complete you, who can be happy without constant external stimulation, who can be authentic without needing universal approval. Your way of being in the world isn't wrong, it's just different. And in a world that's increasingly losing touch with authenticity, your difference might be exactly what others need to see to remember who they really are beneath all their masks and performances. The lone wolf doesn't howl from loneliness. The lone wolf howls from freedom. And that sound, the sound of someone who has learned to be fully themselves, is the most beautiful and terrifying sound society has ever heard.